Good morning, Steve.
Hello, good morning. I phoned up your office yesterday to see if I could arrange a meeting to consult one of your team about a case I'd like to talk through with you. Just phoned to see what your availability is this morning.
Right, okay. What sort of a matter would it be? Because I'd need to put you through to the correct team.
Medical.
Oh, right. Medical negligence. Let me put you through to the team there. Who shall I say is calling, please?
It's Mr. MacLeod.
Thank you so much. One moment now. Hello, you're through to Georgia at Enable Law.
Hello, good morning. Sorry, what's your name again?
Georgia.
Hi, Georgia. What do you do?
I'm a paralegal in Enable Law.
Okay, brilliant. And you work in your medical department?
Yes, in the clinical negligence department, yeah.
Great. Okay, George. My name's MacLeod. I'm just in Bristol this morning. I was just wondering if I could arrange a consultation with one of your team to talk through a case that I'd like you guys to potentially look into representing you for.
Okay. Yeah, I can. So what I can do is I can take the details, and then what I'll do is pass it on to someone who can make a decision on whether it's something we can help you with.
Okay. What would be really good is if I could meet with somebody in person. I've got a few documents from the people involved, and some of it is kind of knowledge of things which I expect some of your team will have some knowledge of. But what I've also got is policy documents, as well as a few other written clinical notes and things printed off from hospital, a couple of different hospitals.
Okay.
So it just to speak with somebody in person will probably make things a lot easier in terms of you sort of knowing where we stand and the best way to move forward, really. Is there any way I could come down and have a chat with one of your team for sort of 15 or 20 minutes?
I think what would be best to do would be, you say you're in Bristol?
That's right.
Okay, can I take your name and number and give you a call back and see if that is possible? Because usually we have to do a telephone conversation and it goes from there.
I mean, I saw that you're down on Victoria Street, is that right?
Yeah, that's the Bristol. I'm in base in Exeter, so I'm in Exeter today, but there is a Bristol office, yeah.
Okay. I mean, if I just sort of go and knock on the door, have you got a customer-facing office there that I could just sort of pop to the front desk and see if anybody's free?
I mean, you could do, but they will probably advise you to go back through a telephone call and do it that way. Usually it's...
They turn customers away if they walk into their place of business?
Well, I think usually the other policy is just to go through the telephone call, but I mean, I've not.
I understand. That's what you do is field calls from people and organise slots to go forward that way. So I don't know.
You might be able to. It might not be that you'd be able to book an appointment to see someone right then. It might be that you'd have to maybe potentially wait.
Let's do both.
Yeah.
If I run through it with you, if you can get me a slot, that'd be brilliant. And I'm literally sort of 10 minutes away, so if I go and pop my head in there and say hello, we can always see how that works out. So I'll ask you some questions. Do you like to take my name?
Yes, I just do need to read out a quick data protection script as well, I'm afraid. Let's have a look. I just need to load it up on my... Sorry, my computer decided to crash. Oh, bear with me.
Your computer's crashed?
Yeah, I'm on my... need to take my notes on my computer. It's...
That's unusual in this day and age. You guys running a little
bit... loading up.
Send on the pennies in the IT department?
No, not at all. It's just Monday morning.
Okay,
all right. So before we talk, there are a couple of things that we need to confirm for data protection purposes to make sure that you're okay with how we deal with any information you give us. So I need to ask you for information such as contact details and details of what's happened to you or the person you're phoning about. And these will be recorded on our system so that we can consider whether we can help. And we store this information on our internal computer systems, which are all based in the UK, for a period of 12 months from today. And if you become a client, we'll store it for longer, but we'll send you some information about that. And there's more information about your rights and how we store your information on our website, enablelaw.com. Please do have a look at this and let me know if you have any questions. Can you confirm that you've understood this and are happy to go ahead with the call?
I can, yes. Provisionally, although I'm sure they're fairly sort of general, the terms on your website. Is there any way you could read me the terms on your website just so that I know what they are before I agree to them?
Okay.
If it's like 25 pages, then obviously don't worry about it too much. But obviously, agreeing to a verbal contract without having heard the terms is not ideal. I'm sure it's probably going to be something as simple as you keep my name and telephone number and reserve the right to aggregate and store those details. But occasionally there are terms which aren't always cricket. Don't want to get off on the wrong foot, if you pardon the pun, but yeah, it'd be good just to know what those are before I kind of agree to those. I'm sure it's fine, do you know what I mean? It's just data protection, isn't it? Obviously you're going to be taking personal information from people and you've got to let them know that that's going to be retained. And if that is what it is, then I'm sure that's fine.
Yeah, of course. So, I mean, there is a sort of a longer paragraph on our website, but it does just say that we will we'll process your personal data with names and addresses and any sensitive data such as information about your injury, all the details of the person you represent, and they'll just to carry out instructions. So that I'll send it on to somebody else today. So I'll take your information, send it on to somebody else, and then they'll decide whether they make a decision. It's something we can help you with, and then we'll store that on our internal systems based in the UK so that our expert solicitors can use it to work out whether we can help you and discuss the claim further review. And we store that for 12 months, and then after 12 months, if you're not a client, we will get rid of it. But if you do become a client, we'll obviously store it for longer because it will probably be a longer than 12 months to settle a claim. And Enable Law, which is part of the Fit Entity Group, is the data controller of all of the information that we hold about you. If you instruct us, we will share some of your information such as your name, address, and matter description with Fit Entity. So we are part of the Fit Entity Group. So that's where the Fit Entity comes in. This is to comply with our legal and regulatory requirements, and in order to protect our clients and businesses from conflicts of interest. For example, one reason we do this is to ensure that we do not act in matters where Fit Entity are already instructed and in an adverse position, and equally to ensure that Fit Entity does not accept instructions to act against clients of Enable Law. Do you want me to keep going with a few more sentences?
Pretty much, unless you're going to share it with anybody, and even if you do, it's probably going to be okay. But that's probably the long and the short of it. That's fine.
I mean, whilst it's if we don't take you on as a client, it doesn't get. It just gets stored on our systems for 12 months.
That's not a problem at all.
Okay. Okay. So if I could take your, are you happy to go ahead? Yeah, can I confirm that?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay. Can I take your name?
Yes, Mr. MacLeod.
Okay.
Mike Alpha Charlie. Lima Echo Oscar Delta.
Okay. And we usually, like I said, I'm the paralegal, so I'll take your information, pass it on. So I don't know whether you want to just give me a quick summary with dates of everything that's happened. However's best for you, really.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of litigation, there's probably a couple of different bits of law that you could enact, but the long and the short of it is that it would be a claim for unlawful detention, which was from 16th of May up until the 17th of October.
Of this year?
That's right.
Yep.
I was detained at Darlington at a Signet private hospital, and I was also detained at Taunton at a Signet private hospital, and I was also detained in Torbay at Torbay Hospital on a ward there. When a patient is detained under section, there's something called medical legal scrutiny, which has to take place. And this is really, really important. It's a legal requirement for lawful detention. I was detained under Section 2 on the 16th of May, and on the 7th of June, I believe, there was a second assessment, and that was increased up to Section 3. Once a patient is detained under Section 3 and they're transferred from one hospital to another, because of Section 63 of the Mental Health Act, meaning that people can be forcibly medicated, and a number of other reasons, there's something called a Section 3 transfer in checklist, which is very similar to the medical legal scrutiny checklist. And these are required every time you transfer a patient who is detained under Section 3 of the Mental Health Act. So I was transferred once from Darlington to Taunton under Section 3, and I was transferred then from Taunton to Torbay Hospital, also under Section 3. So for each of those transfers, there should have been a Section 3 transfer in checklist completed, which for all intents and purposes, is the same as in its kind of legal purport and its functionality as the medical legal scrutiny checklist, which take place when somebody is assessed and then forcibly detained. So in total, there's 4 medical legal scrutiny checklists which have been emitted by NHS Devon Partnership, who are responsible for overseeing my patient transfers and the sections which took place. What that means relative to their own policy document and any other NHS policy document you care to review is that the detention was unlawful. If you look at the case law for unlawful detention, it's worth around £300 a day, and I was detained for around 4 months. So it would be somewhere between sort of £30,000 and £40,000 would be the standard advice for a claim of rights for that kind of mistake. In addition to that, when I was at Torbay Hospital, what happened was that I found that my consultant wasn't qualified as a psychiatric consultant. I asked for her general medical counsel details, and she neglected to provide them. She neglected to indicate that she was a qualified consultant on my clinical notes, because she wasn't one. And then when I raised this issue with the doctor, she then took 2 weeks of annual leave, during which time I wasn't seen by a consultant. And once she returned, the details were never provided to me. They told me I had to put a request in writing to find out, just to be confirmed that my doctor was qualified, which is the General Medical Council have confirmed that's completely at odds with their policies. And
hello, sorry, the phone line's gone a bit funny there. I missed that last bit.
So the General Medical Council have confirmed that that's completely at odds with their policies. So they don't. Anybody who's qualified should always give you their verification details if required. Obviously, if you want to find out your GP's not Dr. Harold Shipman, then this is why these organisations exist, is to vet and regulate people, to reassure patients, and to make sure that people aren't practising medicine without a licence.
And if you spoke to general medical counsel about that. They said that to you as well.
That's right.
Confirmed. Yeah. Okay.
And if you look on her general medical counsel page, she was qualified many years ago. She's on the medical. She's qualified in medicine, but there's something called the specialist register, which is if you want to be a consultant for NHS, you have to be on that specialist register. If you're a paediatrician, you need to be a specialist paediatric consultant, for example. If you're not, you're not allowed to walk around a ward claiming to patients that you are. And certainly the fact that she's denied to provide those details is kind of a glaring admission. What happened after I tried to raise that with staff several times, nobody ever gave me her registration details. When I put it to them that I'd found them online and that she wasn't qualified, and funnily enough, both her and all of the ward staff had neglected to provide those details.
Yeah.
They didn't take any action, and eventually I tried to phone 101 to call those details in and report it, because I found that under the Medicines Act it's a crime to practice medicine, and she would have been cuffed and detained in police custody and escorted off the premises if she was found to be practicing medicine without a licence.
Yeah.
It's crime imprisonable for up to 12 months, I believe. I tried to phone and report those, and staff rounded on me and stole all of my laptops and my mobile phones. They didn't complete the correct paperwork when they did that. They didn't give me any sort of reason for that, and they didn't. If you're detained in a psychiatric hospital and somebody thinks that your mobile telephone, for whatever reason, is bad for your welfare, they have to give you a detailed reason as to why that is, and paradoxically, they have to give you the details of a consultant who's making that instruction to seize your property. That has to be medically justified, it has to be witnessed, and there has to be a very clear detail in place. What happened in this occasion, I was trying to report a crime that I felt was valid, and in the eyes of the law and medical legislation would have been as well. And I was then censored by the ward, who stole all of my property and retained it for quite some time. Eventually, the correct paperwork was completed retrospectively. And then following that, I was discharged from the ward after I tried to make that and some other slightly more serious issues public. They realised that they were in a very untenable situation and that I was completely in the right. And after having requested another consultant, which I was instructed to do in writing, and having not received any further advice from them, I went from, at the beginning of October, a ward round I didn't attend. They were trying to double my medication and claiming that I was very ill indeed and that I needed increased medication. And then the following week, I was made informal, which basically means you still have a place on the ward, but you're no longer detained against your will. And then a few days later, I was just ejected from the hospital. So I was told that I'd been discharged. There had been a plan to work towards supported accommodation and to work with Tottenham's community mental health team with a care coordinator from my local NHS trust to facilitate a discharge. But what happened instead is that after censoring me and realising they were guilty of not only severe clinical and medical negligence, clerical errors, and other kind of more pertinent policy failures, that they'd also committed some crimes, they just ejected me from the hospital. And since then, I came to see my nearest relative, who lives in Bristol. I wasn't able to stay with him, so I put myself up into a hostel, a couple of different hostels for a little while since then, which is cost.
And that's about where you've been staying since?
That's right, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
So the claim would be for unlawful detention, and also, potentially there would be distress and inconvenience, certainly damages related to the associated costs. The medical legal office in Torbay, when I put it to them that they didn't have the medical scrutiny, they have put that in writing for me. Initially, they did hold their hands up to that and did say that they were that they had to accept that had happened. You know, it was their remit basically to make sure that the transfer and checklist took place, and to make sure that everything else had been done correctly. And they had all of the wet copies from the previous 2 hospitals where the transfer and checklist hadn't taken place, and they had them all on file. And I sat there in the office with them, and they said, "Look, we haven't got the medical legal scrutiny." That could mean that the people who detained me weren't qualified. It could mean that my medical details hadn't been correctly identified. If I had allergies or long-term illnesses, if I was epileptic or anaphylactic or hypoglycemic, or there's a number of different conditions which, if I was anemic, if you had medicines which you were forced to take, that could endanger your life in a very, very real sense. So those medical legal scrutinies, making sure you've got the correct medical details, the correct date of birth, the correct name. There were a number of other serious issues that took place at some of the other hospitals, which may or may not be relevant to include in the claim. In addition to the doctors, my consultant's qualified status and the censorship that took place there, and the associated costs which I've accrued since having been discharged, not as a result of making a full recovery, but as a result of the hospital trying to commercially protect themselves from further prosecution, because they knew that what they'd done was both proven and extremely serious from a clinical perspective. So ultimately it's a claim for unlawful detention, and I've got a letter from the Mental Health Act Administrator, who would be the person who would be liable, who've admitted that that's taken place. So they've already held their hands up to it. It says in their policy document that in the event that medical legal scrutiny doesn't take place, it says on page 1 that would mean that the detention is not lawful. And in the policy documents, it invites patients to apply for compensation in the event that they've been unlawfully detained. That's what it says in the policy documents. They openly advise.
Oh, sorry, go on.
No, sorry, ask me questions. It'd be far better to get information
I was just going to,
rather than whatever I think is.
That's okay. The Torbay Medical Legal Office, did you say that they did accept that they didn't do these transfer and checklists properly?
That's correct, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
They've also completed some forms for me which say that they completed the Section 2 and Section 3 Section 3 and Section 2 checklist, but they did those retrospectively, which was kind of like, was a step in the right direction to show that, in their opinion, they had vetted and qualified the procedure. But equally, I've got strong grounds to show that they aren't accurate at all, and B, what they also showed is that it was not done at the time, and the policy is very, very prescriptive about that. You can't. It's a bit like driving your car without an MOT. You can't drive your car for 6 months and then get pulled over by the British Transport Police and then go and take it for an MOT and say, well, it's been fine for the last 6 months. You have to get the MOT when it's due. You have to quality check these things on the date that they take place. You can't do it months, and you can't detain somebody, imprison somebody from British citizenship, and then turn around and say that everything's all right later on, because obviously. But I mean, they have done that, which is kind of like it shows good faith. But what it also kind of shows in a way is that they know that they haven't followed the rules there. I think that if we stick to the unlawful detention and we make a reasonable offer to them, bearing in mind the wider perspective on some of the other issues, which I could go on to explain. I mean, some of them are far more serious. I think that I've got a strong indication to show that that they'd be happy if it's presented diplomatically in a way that's not going to kind of endanger their wider reputation and isn't going to cause too much friction, I believe that they could settle fairly quickly if the right offer was made and it was shown to be substantiated correctly. The impression I've got from them is that they're aware that actually it is very serious, and they're aware that it could be very commercially damaging, and they could be really taken to the cleaners for what happened. Without kind of putting too fine a point on it, I think that the situation, as bizarre as it might sound, may involve some circumstances outside of their control, and I think they understand that. I recognise that, but at the same time, they have got an element of culpability. They are worth £500 billion. The NHS is a very, very valuable organisation, and some of the things that have taken place, I think, have been as a result of maybe third-party private entities rather than direct failings in their genuine professionality and genuine ability to practice medicine. But at the same time, I think they do accept that they do have an element of guilt, they do have an element of responsibility, which they're willing to hold their hands up for if things are done in a way which can be the least restrictive, least damaging, and can give a little bit of onus to the fact that that they are doing majoritively a good job, and that although this might look like a terrible, terrible scandal, which would probably make the national press if it was fully investigated and exposed without question, I think if things are done, like I said, diplomatically and discreetly and within reason, I've got a good indication from the staff and the conversations that I've had that they would be willing to settle fairly quickly, and that would be justified.
Okay.
I mean, like I said, if you look at the case law, £300 is a ballpark figure for unlawful detention.
Yeah.
Of course, it depends on the circumstances. Of course, it depends on the situation. With them having forgotten 4 of these documents, which would pertain the detention to be legal, so that would be Section 2, medical legal scrutiny checklist, Section 3, medical legal scrutiny checklist from the 16th of May and also the 7th of June. And then also on the 20th of June, there's a transfer in checklist, Section 3 transfer in checklist. And then there was another one of those on the 16th of August when I was taken to Haytor Ward. There was a transfer in. So there's 4 of those they've forgotten, George. And one of the things that's really kind of pertinent about that is that obviously, I'm sure you're aware as a paralegal, if somebody makes a mistake, there's a fine line between clinical negligence, and willful or even criminal negligence. Knowingly exposing somebody to the risk of harm or even death is very different, and you start to stray over from civil issues into Crown Court issues, because if it looks like somebody's, if you cut the brake lines on somebody's car and give them the keys and tell them to go and drive it down the motorway, that's a big difference between somebody who's a piss poor mechanic. There's a point where it becomes, and it's very difficult. This part of the problem is because it's very difficult for them to for anybody to review this and say, well, they've forgotten to do this for this patient not once, not twice, not 3 times, but 4 times.
Yeah.
And then when you put him into hospital, you've got a lady who's never been qualified in her, who's not qualified to do the job, forcing him to take medicines which she's not qualified to prescribe, and could.
Do you have her name?
I do. I've got all of her details, but like I said, I'll discuss it with somebody who. I would like it if, in an ideal world, she didn't have to be necessarily concerned. I think if we stuck to unlawful detention, I think the medical legal office would look upon that more favourably. This woman was qualified in medicine. She's not just like a clean skin off the street, but she's somebody who isn't qualified to do her job. And I don't feel her conduct, she was extremely unprofessional, extremely negligent, and very irresponsible. But I don't know why she was in that position. I don't think it's beyond feasibility that anybody running an NHS trust could possibly haven't believed this lady was employed or have given her an employment. If you or I went to go and apply for a job as a brain surgeon, it wouldn't matter if we'd done a medical degree. It's just one of those things. There's just no way you would ever be stood in a ward with a patient. It's just. But what I'm saying in short is that I have got all of those details, and I'm giving you the wider perspective because there is, other, extremely significant risk to health, massive impact on my health, massive impact on my finances. It's cost me hundreds of pounds to accommodate myself. It's put me in significant danger and has caused a lot of distress to my nearest relatives. It's significantly worsened my health, I would say. And there was a number of other issues which took place at the other hospitals, which are documented, whereby my name's been falsified numerous and repeated times. There's been attempts to make it look like I wasn't an inpatient at the ward. There's been numerous other staffing issues. But what I'd like to do, and I think the most diplomatic and kind of sensible way to move forward would be to make it easy for them to say yes. Maybe even, I don't know if you guys would entertain that kind of thing, but looking at something like a non-disclosure agreement would probably be really valued by them, and I'd be happy to work with that if possible. But yeah, I do have the consultant's full details, but in an ideal world, what I'd like to do would be just to approach them with a really lenient offer, which is legally backed, with the understanding that, if they don't accept, they could be rightfully prosecuted for the full extent of the law and, be liable for the full sum, which could be made probably 4 or 5 times what I would consider to be a reasonable offer. And leave the unqualified consultant out, because like I said, that's one of the things which, although is most definitely medical, is negligent, is a very, is an understatement really. Like I said, what they did there was criminal, and I think that it's something which they would probably rather. I don't know who this lady is, and I don't know why she was in the hospital. But I don't, I don't want to put anybody in jail. Do you know what I mean? Like that. Yeah. I don't know what she's done. I mean, she could have certainly been, very detrimental to my health and well-being. But in an ideal world, I'd rather not include that. But I'm happy to share the details provisionally. But I would instruct, I would rather just go down the route that.
The civil route, yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, it could still be civil, but if it gets put into, it's very, very difficult, George, because once you write that into the narrative of a prosecution, and somebody goes forward with it, if you find out somebody, something dreadful had happened to somebody, and somebody was prosecuting somebody about that, and you didn't report that to the police. I mean, you've kind of got, it puts us all in a bit of a sticky situation. It's not very, it's not a very easy thing to sort of skirt around. It's quite a kind of, it's kind of, it could be really serious. In some ways, it might be somebody cutting corners because they haven't got enough money at the NHS, but I don't think that's how it is. And whatever the reason behind it, I would rather just focus on the unlawful detention, going with a sensible offer. Yeah. And I think they'll probably go forward with that. If they don't, I mean, certainly it's very serious, and it could be used. Would have a massive amount of leverage, especially in context of what's happened in terms of me being ejected from the hospital prematurely. The costs and the impact that's had, the censorship which took place when I tried to report that doctor, which then was also in turn theft. Which again, if you go and take somebody's £10,000 worth of electronics from somebody in any kind of environment, you need to have the legal procedural narrative to be able to do that. It's not something you can do just because you feel like it. And even more kind of relevantly, if that person's just tried to report you for a crime and you're seen to be taking their property, not only it's theft, but it's also theft with a very strong motive of censorship. It's a completely valid legal issue. So again, I mean, all of these issues are kind of there, and they're not irrelevant by any stretch of the imagination. But I think, based on the complexity of the situation and the various different factors involved, I think the most sensible thing to do would be to focus on what they've kind of already held their hands up to and admitted to, and work forward with that and see what their response is. I think that if things are done sensibly, the impression that I've got, I mean, I could just go to the medical legal office myself, but I think obviously they have to be seen to be, they can't just be, paying out compensation for every single patient that approaches them. That if somebody's got, I think it would be as simple as filing the case, putting it to them once they understand that a legal firm has been instructed, and they have no wiggle room on this. They've admitted it. It's on page 1 of the policy document. They put it in writing for me. They've given me, they've completed the documents months after they should have done, which just kind of shows that obviously that it's good from their point of view, because in a way it shows that they are being diligent to some extent, but it's just completely non-negotiable. There's no way that that's acceptable in law. You can't imprison British citizens and then make sure you've done everything legally months down the line. It just it's obviously for obvious reasons that's not lawful or legal. So it's unlawful detention. It's probably worth I don't know. I'd have to look at an offer, but on paper, it's certainly worth £35,000 just for the unlawful detention. If you factored in the other bits and pieces, you'd probably be looking at 6 figures reasonably with the right solicitor. If I took everything into account, the fact that I've been ejected from the hospital, the fact that the staff weren't qualified, the fact they stole my property and censored me. There were a number of other issues with my nearest relative. The fact that I was being forcibly medicated without my medical details having been identified. I mean, again, that could be attempted murder. Sounds a little bit drastic, but if you detain somebody who's anemic or hypoglycemic and you give them a tablet which is not appropriate for them, then that could end that person's life. And if they'd just forgotten to do one piece of paper, if somebody comes into A&E, and they forget to do a document and they give that person the wrong medication, that's and it happens to end that person's life, and that's one thing. But in the instance where you forget the same piece of paper 4 times in succession, and then you're risking that person's life again, it's very different. It looks very much like there must be a motive here. This isn't, I don't know how many metaphors I can think of. It's a bit like crashing your car into a wall 4 times in a row, and hitting a pedestrian the 4th time, and you kind of have to wonder how it is you managed to do that 4 times and then just coincidentally endangered life in the process. It's one of those things. It's very difficult for them to work their way around. But like I said, I think they'll be receptive.
Do you have your notes or the medical notes from them then, or is it stuff that you've got is what you've sort of requested from the legal officers?
Yeah, I've got a good bundle of papers. Yeah, they're not exhaustive, but obviously they weren't able to have all of the bits and pieces. They didn't have the paperwork. There was some quite serious libelist and malfeasant practices which took place with some of the staff. Some of the staff in the office were really helpful, and some of the other ones were extremely unprofessional and broke the law. I think I might have even had a fraudulent communication with somebody who was the head of the trust as well, but that's kind of another matter. Which all of these details I can discuss. But yes, the short answer. I've got all the papers you would need to prove it. I've got my clinical notes. I've got my Section 17 leave form. I've got my inpatient care plan printed out. I've got the policy document that shows the details. I've got 2 signed copies, wet copies of letters from the person in question admitting that the legal scrutiny wasn't there. I mean, effectively, that's all you would really need to see is the letter and the policy document. You can look at the policy document. It's there on page 1. Medical legal scrutiny checklist is required to ensure that detentions are lawful. And then I've got another letter that says 2 of those were missing. And it's as simple as that. It's as binary as that. I mean, if I show this to somebody, anybody looking to instruct the courts, any officer of the courts would see that. And it's very, very binary. It's instantly recognisable, and there's no, the person the crime is clear, or the case is clear, and they've admitted to it, and their policy documents are extremely prescriptive about it. So I've got a whole load of papers, which is kind of what I wanted to talk to your team over, because obviously if you start looking it up, there are there's obviously it's a wealth of information on the internet, and I wouldn't be surprised if, although these cases aren't probably that common, I'd be very surprised if anyone's ever found 4 of them have been missing. Like in British legal history, I'd be very surprised if. I'd hope. I'm assuming this sort of thing doesn't happen all the time, but yeah. So.
Okay. What were the names of the hospitals that you were saying that in each time? Do you have the names of them?
Yeah, I can give you those when we come to the meeting. That's fine. Yeah.
Okay.
So there was one in Darlington, one in Taunton, and one in Torbay.
Okay. Okay. So what I will do then, I'll pass this on to the team who'll make a decision. I think I'm probably going to pass it on to someone in the abuse team rather than the clinical negligence one. The abuse team, I think, rather than the clinical negligence one, because we have slightly different teams.
I don't know that medical abuse is fair. Maybe it is. I'll be I'll be instructed.
Yeah.
For you, but,
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to pass this on to them now, and then what we do is we get back on the same day. Sometimes it's the next day if it takes a bit longer to sort of make a decision based on what you've given me or today. But we'll definitely give you a call. It might be that we call back for a bit more information or on bits that maybe they might need to know. But if you want to talk to someone yourself as well, that could actually potentially help you. So what I'll do is I'll pass this on. And I do need to take just a few more details, such as your telephone number, so I could give you a call back in your email, if that's okay.
Yeah, fine.
Yeah, but what's the best number to contact you on?
It's 07576.
Yeah. 576
713
713
026.
026. So that was 0757 671 3026.
That's right, yeah.
Yep. Do you have an email that we could contact at all, or?
I do, yeah. It's just my name, which is BRODIE.
Yep. Yep.
And then MacLeod, as it's spelled, as I explained to you earlier, is MACLEOD.
LEOD, yep.
And then the word temp, TEMP, an abbreviation.
Sorry, was that on the end, TEMP?
That's right, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And that's at gmail.com.
gmail.com. Okay, and we usually take date of birth. You don't have to give it to me right now if you don't want to. But
fine, yeah. 28th of June.
Yeah.
1986.
1986. Okay. Do you usually take the address again? You don't have to. If you do you have an address at the moment that you're registered at, or?
I'd rather not give that at this stage. I do, yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
If I come and speak to a team, then certainly I can.
Yeah.
We can negotiate on those details if it comes to the stage. If I'd like to instruct, then I can, give you my photo ID and my address and all that stuff.
Yeah. No problem. How did you hear about us?
Through Google.
Online, yeah. Okay. Okay. I'll leave that with me. Thank you for sharing that with me, and we'll get back to you hopefully today, if not tomorrow. But usually we try and get it back on the same day.
This morning would be best. Obviously, I appreciate everybody probably said that. But can I get a reference number for this case, for the instruction that I've given you? Can I get any sort of reference for this call, please?
Yeah, I can send. We don't have a reference number whilst it's at the moment. I can send you. I can send you my email if you want my email to say.
Your full name and job title, please.
It's Georgia Hyams, and I'm a paralegal.
Okay, how do I spell your first name?
Georgia.
Georgia, and your second name?
Hyam for mother S.
So that's Hotel Yankee Alpha Mike Sierra.
Yeah.
It's an unusual name. Georgia, where's your family from?
I think that's Jewish. I think my last name's Jewish, but we're not Jewish, but Scotland. Yeah.
Okay. And what do you do? What's your full job title?
I'm a paralegal, so assisting the earners.
So paralegal, is that paralegal secretary or paralegal advisor, or is that...
Just paralegal, or you could say legal assistant, something along those lines.
What did it say when you applied for the job? Like when you applied for the job, what's your kind of like? What did it say on there?
Legal assistant, I believe. Just legal assistant, yeah.
Okay. And how long have you worked for Tennessee?
6 months, I think. I've been here now.
Okay, cool. And where is it you work?
I'm in Exeter.
At the site in Exeter. And which site is that?
The address. It's on the website. It's Senate Court. In Southern Hay Gardens.
Okay, so what's the address of where you work?
Sorry, Senate Court, Senate.
Senate?
Yeah.
So Senate, you mean like where the president lives or whatever?
Yeah, Senate, yeah.
Okay, Senate Court, and that's in Southern Hay.
Yeah.
What's the postcode there, Georgia?
EX1.
Yeah.
1NT.
Okay, cool. Have you guys got a front-facing office in there, or?
Yes, we do, yeah.
Okay. And I mean, like, if I go and pop my head into the Bristol office, I mean, I appreciate, they might say phone up our general paralegal advice line, but if they don't, what if I can just go and speak with them directly?
I don't want you to get down there and then have come back and not be able to see somebody at that point.
Well, I mean, either they'll say yes and invite me in,
yeah,
and there's somebody that will talk through your case and look at your paperwork, or they'll phone you, in which case they'll say, well, I've already done that, so...
Yeah. So, I mean, well... It also doesn't necessarily mean that you'll be, if we do take a case, and that it will be taken on in Bristol, so it could be that it's taken on in any of the offices that we have. So you can go down and see if there is someone there, but I think it would be best if I can pass this on today, we can get back to you and we can arrange something from there. I think that's probably the best way to do it.
Yeah, okay, cool. Well, I'll bear that in mind. Maybe I'll pop and see them, maybe I won't,
Okay, all right. Okay, well, let me pass this on and we'll get back to you as soon as we can, okay?
Okay, Georgia, thank you very much for your time this morning. Could you send me through a confirmation email, please, just with the details of our conversation?
Yes, that's fine.
Wicked. All right. Okay, that's cool.
Okay.
If you could get someone to call me back as quickly as possible, that would be really, really useful.
Okay, all right.
Cool.
I'll see what I can do. Okay,
good morning.
Bye-bye. You too.
And you can see here's a photo of Connor claiming his bit at work, and what looks like somebody else's hand photoshopped into the image. Looks quite a lot like that.
Crisis House, Vicky speaking.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello, good morning. I spoke with a member of your team, I believe his name was Daniel, day before yesterday. Could you put me through, please?
He's not here at the moment. He's not in till this afternoon now.
Okay.
Anything I can help with?
Yeah, maybe. I spoke with a member of Mental Health Street Triage on Friday the 8th of November. And they made a referral they checked for availability at the Crisis House in Bristol.
Yeah, that's where I am now, yeah.
Yeah, and they were going to refer me. They said they would call me. I'd get a call in the next couple of days.
What's your name?
It's Mr. MacLeod.
Give me 2 seconds. I'm just going to have a look.
I went to the Bristol Royal Infirmary and they told me that the referral had been made and they gave me your number.
What's your surname? What's your first name, sorry?
Brody.
Sorry? Brody?
That's right, yeah. It's Bravo Romeo Oscar, Delta Indigo Echo.
There's nothing here at the moment. There's nothing on our referrals waiting list.
And what's your name?
My name's Vicky.
What's your surname?
Give me 2 seconds. My Vicky Neal, so Victoria. Let me just have a look at my emails to make sure we haven't missed the referral.
So when I went to the BRI a couple of days ago, they said they could see it on their systems. They could see I'd spoke with Sarah Hogston.
Okay.
And that she'd made the referral, and I should be looking to hear I should have received a phone call from you guys regarding that, but I'm not sure what happened. I spoke with them and a member of your team, like a couple of days ago, and they said that the system had to be checked, or like the guy couldn't see it from where he was or something. But
I can't see it. I'm just typing your name in my email to see if it will come up, just in case we've missed a referral or something. How am I spelling MacLeod? MCLOUD?
It's Mike Alpha Charlie.
Yep.
Lima Echo Oscar Delta.
No, I don't think it's come through. You might want to go back to whoever it was that was supposed to refer
they sort
you.
of said this. It doesn't really make sense. I mean, the way that referrals are made, it's not kind of like a one-sided thing. You know, it's not like they kind of like email through and if somebody picks it up, then a patient gets transferred. It's kind of like they phone up, they check availability, and once the availability is there, then the referral's made.
No, it doesn't go like that. It goes, what happens is, so we've basically got, but if you think about it, there's a lot of clients here and they're constantly moving in and out. So the turnover's quite quick. So what happens is, when someone's in crisis, the referral gets made, and then we look at the referral, so everything's fine, if we haven't got any questions, just goes on a waiting list, and we've got like a folder with all the referrals here. And then so when people move out, we just go down the list, next person come in, and it goes like that. So it's not about checking for availability. You would just go on the waiting list, and as soon as the bed space come up, you'd be invited to come in if everything was straightforward.
She phoned up and checked for availability and then made the referral. So she said that there was availability. She'd spoken with your team and she made a referral. And that should secure that. And the follow-up should have been made by whoever was there to contact the patient. And it's not kind of like, if you can imagine, I understand what you're saying, but obviously these things are kind of like, have like a mutual complicit, like, action. Like if you make a referral, it's not kind of like somebody sends a message and if they don't get it, then the person gets kind of slips through the system. It's kind of like if there's something there, it's a box is ticked and then it's made. It's not kind of like obviously you can, if somebody disappears, then that's a different matter. But like I'm just a little bit bemused. I had this conversation with a guy who tried to say the same thing. Who said that, there's like an email.
There's no referral here.
If no one got the email, then it's just
to make it clear.
To make it
clear, can I speak? To make it clear, there's no referral here. We haven't received a referral, so you need to go back to the person that said they referred you, and maybe get them to phone here or something. Your referral is not here with us, so we can't do anything if we haven't got it. Does that make sense? The referral's not here. We check our referrals every day. Put them in the folder.
Sure.
It's not here.
the BRI said they could see that there.
Well, it's not. They need to phone here.
They looked on the computer and they put in my details and they said, yes, I can see that you were referred to the crisis centre.
Maybe there was a message, but we need to see the referral form. There's no referral form this end. That's simplified. There's no referral this end.
Okay,
so if they said that...
Yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to sort of work out, trying to be solution focused. So
yeah, they need to phone us or send us a referral form. That's what they need to do.
So
the next thing is we need the referral form.
So the lady is either lied and sort of said or it's been deleted at your end, or how could that not have? I mean, I'm just trying to work out how it's appearing on the BRI section and not with you.
Oh God, she could have said. She could have read an email saying he's been referred to the crisis house without actually seeing if the referral form's been sent off. It could be that it's been sent to the wrong address. It could be this in the outbox.
She could do that.
It just, mistakes happen. I don't know. All I know is we haven't got the referral this end.
Yeah, but I mean, obviously in terms of solving the issue, if I go to the BRI, they're going to look on their computer and they're going to say, yes, Mr. MacLeod was referred by Sarah Hogston on the 8th of November at 12 p.m. And that's what it says on their system. So either she has forgotten, she had the telephone number, she phoned up and checked for availability. So either she's accidentally put in the wrong email address, which I don't think for somebody that works for street triage and does this every day of her working career.
To be honest, I really, all I know is we need the referral form. That's what we need.
Yeah, it's just really strange that it's not there. It doesn't seem to make any sense. I mean, like, if I go back to the BRI, they're going to tell me, they're going to put my name into the computer again. They're going to say, yes, Mr. MacLeod, I've got the referral, I can see the details here.
I would just say,
over to the house on Friday the 12th of November. Here's the phone number.
If it was
me, get in touch with them and follow it up. But when I'm phoning your team, you're telling me that it's not there. So I mean, I'm trying to work out. Obviously, it's all very well trying to chase this lady up. If somebody can get hold of her, I think she worked for Wiltshire NHS Trust, and she was a street triage team member, and she's based over in Portishead. But I mean, following her up to make a referral again is going to probably require, someone's going to need to know how it is that, obviously, someone could commit medical fraud by putting two referrals in the same name, or do you know what I mean? Like, if someone's referred a patient in, they're not going to, issue that same referral 3 times in a row, for example, because that could obviously, that would be medical malpractice. So, in order for us to work out how to solve the issue, we need to try and find out what could have gone wrong, if that makes sense. So, she's either told a porcupine, she's either not made the referral, or she's put it in the wrong details. Would you agree with that? I mean, it's got to be one of those three. Either she's given false information to the Bristol Royal Infirmary, which I don't think she would do, but I mean, I'm just trying to look at it in terms of like possible scenarios, or she's used the wrong email address, which, as I say, as a member of the street triage team, she has to make referrals to that unit every day of her working career. She wouldn't just use she would know the details.
Brody, can I just, I can't really do much with this phone call now. They need to give us a referral. I haven't got the referral here. I feel like I'm just going around in circles.
Is there any way that has this ever happened before? I mean,
I don't know, to be honest. All I know is the referral's not here. So
has it happened before where you've had a patient that's been referred?
I'm not going to talk about... You need to go back to the referrer and ask her to either phone us and to make sure that the referral form's been sent off. I haven't got it here.
Okay, just to be clear, just so I can say who I've spoken to.
Sure, my name's Vicky. I'm one of the I'm one of the caseworkers here. From what I can see this end, we haven't got a referral here for you. You're not on the waiting list. There's no email here that I can see. I can't see it here, so there's not really much I can do.
I understand that. I'm just trying to work out how that could have occurred.
You'd have to speak to them, because I don't know. I know that I've made mistakes before when sending emails. For instance, I put in the wrong email address. I've sent it to if I was tired or something.
These things happen, but I think the lady is pretty competent, and that's kind of her job. That's pretty much all she does, in fact, is go and, meet psychiatric patients, assess their needs, and refer them for further treatment if required. I mean, that's pretty much, it's 40% of her role is making those referrals. I don't think she would cock it up, really. I mean, it would seem like a little bit far-fetched to think that she would not be able to do what she does all day.
Yeah, I guess like sometimes when we're all human, aren't we? Sometimes we make mistakes. I've gone to email the men's crisis house before and sent it to the female one by mistake because I was tired, or mistakes happen, don't they, as being humans. But all I know is I haven't got the answer for you here because, like I said, I can't see you anywhere on my system. The only other thing I can do, Brodie, while you're here on the phone, if you give me permission to have a look at you on the NHS system, that might be able to tell me something. But I need your permission to have a look at your records.
Why would that be? Are you not part of NHS?
I am, but I need consent to look at your information. I can't just look at anyone on the NHS system.
Okay. Yeah, I'm happy to do that. Yeah.
Okay. Right, I'm just going to put my NHS card in. Just to see, I just want to see if there's a note written on there because it might say that it's been...
This is what they did at the BRI front desk. So I went in and spoke to two ladies there. They were really helpful, and they said, "Yeah, I can see you were referred." They said, "I'm surprised you haven't received any contact from them because it was a couple of days ago." I'm in a pretty sort of vulnerable situation at the moment. I don't feel I've got a property back in Devon. I don't really feel safe to go back there. There's been some pretty serious issues, and I've had to put myself into a hostel. I was ejected from the BRI after a previous referral was made. Much to the dismay of my family, I waited there for sort of 4 or 5 nights in the end after spending a night in A&E. And then eventually I was discharged because they just decided that they referred me for an informal admission to a hospital. Yeah. But then they decided to just redact that, or I'm not sure. I don't really know how that works really. But I never was referred. I just waited for sort of 5 days, and then eventually they said they were waiting for bed capacity to come back and speak with them. And then a lady just came in and told me that.
I've got you. I found you on the system. I found you on the system. 2 seconds. Nathaniel. Hang on. Right, 8th of November, street triage.
You just say my middle name?
Yeah, sorry, I'm just looking at what they're saying.
Yeah, no, it was just a really funny coincidence. The first night I checked in I stayed at a hostel when I was first thrown out of the BRI.
Yeah.
I went to the Full Moon in Bristol, and the first night that I stayed there, the lady accidentally had to give photo identification. She accidentally sort of borrowed my driving licence. She didn't give it back to me. I got it back the next day and didn't think anything of it. And when I went to the front desk just to inquire that the booking had been made correctly and stuff, for some reason she'd used my middle name.
Okay, because it just comes up on your system. Brodie, I've got the answer for you. Do you want to hear it? And I'm sorry I didn't know this, but it's just written on whoever made this, Sarah Hancock. You should have had a conversation with her. So basically, what it's saying is that you weren't eligible for the men's crisis house as you haven't got location in Bristol because you're registered in Devon. You don't qualify to come to the men's crisis house in Bristol. That's what it's saying.
Well, it wouldn't make a difference. I mean, if somebody was, in a situation where they needed admission to hospital, if you lived in London,
I know, it's to do with funding.
Scotland, you wouldn't be told in Scotland that you were going to be referred for a mental health sort of crisis situation, and then told that because your GP's in London, you're going to be left in Scotland.
I know. Do you know what? I know. I totally get you. It's nothing. I don't make those.
That's not how it works. If somebody's in wherever somebody is, they'll be.
It does work. It does work.
If there is
it does work like that, Brodie.
The referral
does work like that here.
It doesn't. The referral would be shifted. The referral wouldn't disappear. It would be like you would be sent back. You would be repatriated. So if I had a GP, wherever my GP is in Devon, that's correct, and it's in the name of Brodie MacLeod, not Brodie Nathaniel Diorsa MacLeod. It's just funny. That's what the lady, for some reason, she put my hotel booking, the hostel booking, in the name of Nathaniel MacLeod. And coincidentally, the same night, my brother reported me as missing. I don't know why he did that. I spoke to him on the phone. I hadn't spoken to him, and he got really worried because he didn't know where I was that night. Because I didn't want to sort of say where I was. I was being really vulnerable. But it was just really strange because obviously, if somebody had reported me, there was no way anybody could track me down because she'd put my hospital listing in the name of Nathaniel, which is the one it doesn't. I'm just trying to clarify, Victoria. It doesn't say Nathaniel on the record, right?
Brody?
Does it say Nathaniel on my record, or does it say Brodie MacLeod?
It's Brodie MacLeod. It's
Okay,
just when I first got your details up, it gives your full name. So I was just saying. So yeah.
Just mentioned one of my middle names.
Yeah. So like I was saying, Brodie, what it's saying is you're not eligible because you're registered in Devon. You wasn't qualified to come into Bristol's Men's Crisis House.
Okay, so what happens if a patient's referred and they're not local?
Yeah.
You don't just then cancel that referral and leave the patient?
Yeah, and the person that referred you would update you on that, and then you'd need to get in touch with services in Devon.
So if I'd just broken both my legs and I was lying in the road and
that's
I
a
was
different
referred
thing.
to the BRI, do you think they would say, well, we could take this person to a hospital ward, but what we're going to do instead, unfortunately, their GP is miles away, so we're just going to leave this person with broken legs in the street, and we're not going to have... if you can understand how the logic, like if somebody's referred and they don't live in the area, they don't...
Yeah, to be honest, I totally hear your frustrations, but it's not. I don't make the rules up, so it's like I'm with you. I'm with you, 100%. But there's nothing I can do. I don't make the rules up. It's not me that puts those things in place. It's to do with funding and stuff like that.
Yeah, of course, but I understand that also I understand you don't make the rules, but you're kind of like you're employed to know them, like hopefully better than I do. So.
So you'd have to. I told you, you're not. It feels like you're not hearing what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I'm listening to you, and I've heard you. I'm just trying to work out, sort of how.
You need to engage in. You'd need to engage in services within the Devon County, or
I'm in Bristol.
Come under the Bristol County.
I'm not in Devon. That's hundreds of miles away. I haven't got anywhere.
Okay, it says here because your GP is in Devon.
That's correct. Yeah.
Right. Okay, that's all it's saying. It's saying that You're not eligible for space due to having GP registration in Devon. That's what it says.
So that's normally not how NHS patient transfer and admission protocol works. Like if you have a patient who's not local and you refer them for medical treatment, you don't then cancel the referral because they're not local. It doesn't. It just doesn't work like that. It's like if somebody, doesn't matter where you live, if you're in a situation deemed to be a medical emergency, you don't just leave that person, tell that person to go and walk 200 miles back to their GP. It's just not how, the referral wouldn't have been cancelled on the basis of the fact that my GP is in Devon. It just wouldn't, it's like, it just wouldn't work like that. It doesn't matter where your GP is. If you're assessed by a member of a team and deemed to be in a medical emergency and referred for hospital admission, or for admission of any kind of medical treatment, that happens based on where you are, not where you live. And I'm sure you can understand the logic behind that. I'm sure you can hear why that doesn't make sense to me. Yeah. Like, it's true, my GP is in Devon, but there's no reason why anybody would be told to go back to where they live if they've been referred by an NHS trust. It just, that's not how it works,
You've got a toes in, you've got on my leg. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. I don't really know where you want me to go now with this, Brodie.
I don't really know what I'm kind of hoping you to say, but I'm just sort of putting it. I'm just like. Could you imagine what would happen if they did that with every patient who didn't have a GP locally? It would just be chaos. It's just not the way that it works. There's very good reason for that, and I don't think the information you're giving me makes sense.
Okay.
And obviously, when I go to the BRI in 20 minutes and go and speak to them,
yeah,
they're going to say the same thing. We get patients from all over the country who come in here and get referred, and we don't tell any of them to go back to their home county.
We don't take anyone out of this county. It's been that way ever since we've opened. You have to fall under the Bristol or South Gloucester County.
What would happen is that the referral would be transferred and I would be repatriated. So in the event that you would find that the patient lives, if you wanted to repatriate the patient, then that's what would happen. So you would arrange transport. The patient would be taken to...
I'm handing you over to my colleague a minute, okay?
Okay,
I'm sorry, I've just come. I need a handover, and I've been informed of about 20 minutes conversation. It is quite clear that you are not appropriate for us because you are Devon. We are not funded. We are a charity that's funded by the NHS.
Sorry, buddy. What's your name, mate?
My name's Malcolm Baldwin. But I do need to close this conversation down because it's Malcolm Baldwin. But I do need to close this conversation down now because I need information from my colleague. We need to. She needs to be able to work. I need to be able to work. It's a 20-minute conversation we've had. I've been quite clear that you're not appropriate for us. I'm really, really sorry, but I do need to close this conversation down. So I'm going to say goodbye now, but I'm really sorry. Yeah. Goodbye.